Hello and welcome to the Global Amateurs Podcast, the place where we'll explore the mindset, motivations, and methodologies of international relations. I'm your host, Haikal, with
Jasmine, hi.
and today we're going to talk about vaccine inequality. We'll discuss the ins and outs of the vaccine rollouts inequality that is currently happening all around the world. So be sure to listen all the way through for all of the details. And with that, let's get started.
Ladies and gentlemen, what is actually vaccine inequality, So to my understanding, vaccine inequality is basically the unfair distribution of COVID-19 vaccines worldwide. So basically, in layman terms, I think it's like richer countries will get more vaccines and the poorer countries will get less vaccines. And some poorer countries, their vaccines will be administered under the COVAX. And this would be basically more time consuming because like COVAX have to distribute vaccines between other poorer countries too,
Mm-hmm.
So actually, when we get into COVAX, what is actually COVAX? COVAX is actually an initiative to distribute vaccines by the World Health Organization. So basically, COVAX aims for the vaccines to be rolled out in all countries within the first 100 days of 2021, including the 92 lower income economies such as Bangladesh, Afghanistan, and basically so on. It is co-led by the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovation, which is CEPI or CEPI, and Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, and the World Health Organization. These organizations, they're working in partnership with developed and developing countries, which have vaccine manufacturers, the UNICEF, the World Bank, and others. It is the only global initiative that is working with governments and manufacturers to ensure COVID-19 vaccines are available worldwide to both higher income and lower income countries. Actually, today, as we speak, will mark the 99th day of the COVAX aim for vaccines to be rolled out. Okay, so you guys have known what is COVAX. What makes vaccine inequality something, so concerning? So, as we know, there are about 448 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines have been administered so far. And more than half of that actually, belongs to the US and the UK and the EU countries. That's not fair. Exactly.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the COVAX program, which promises to give vaccine to lower income countries, there are only 57 million were distributed among 57 countries. That's like 1 million per country. That's not fair, Like
Yeah.
one country is not only 1 million people in there,
Yeah.
And that's super alarming to me. In a general view, there are only 0.1% of doses administered have been given to lower income countries, which is roughly like 16% of the world population, is entitled half of. You see, this COVID dose is only 448 million until the next time they reproduce. If 27 countries on the EU plus the UK plus the US gets half of the doses, what do you think other 166 countries get? Sad, is it? Come to think of it, unfair vaccine distribution is not just a morally outraged thing. It's also economically and epidemiologically counterproductive. For the listeners who don't know what is actually epidemiologically counterproductive, epidemiological is actually a study that measures the risk of illness or death in an exposed population compared to the risk in an identical exposed population. It studies the measures of risk of an illness based on the population, sex, race, and so on. Okay? So why is it economically and epidemiologically counterproductive? At the end of the day, as long as the virus continues to circulate anywhere, people will continue to die. Trade and travel will continue to be disrupted. And at the end of the day, the economic recovery will be further delayed. Some countries can afford, because
Mm.
they are economically stable, to get vaccines from bilateral agreements with manufacturers. But other countries, which are economically dependent on other countries, that's not particularly fair for them, because this COVID-19, it's a worldwide pandemic. It's not a country's pandemic. At the end of the day, these countries are these Latin American countries, these African countries, they are absolutely affected by the
Mhm.
current vaccine inequality distribution. So
Mhm.
as we speak, Haikal, how does the COVAX or the CPI take part in the rollout of the distribution? What role do they play in
Okay,
vaccine
sure.
distribution?
So, in terms of vaccine distribution, the main goal of COVAX is, at the core of it, its goal is to level out the playing field so that every single country could have like a sort of equity, to achieve a sort of equality in terms of vaccine
Mm-hmm.
distribution. Because let's imagine a world where COVAX doesn't exist. Do you think small countries like, for instance, our country, let's take it simple, let's take Malaysia, for instance, right? Do you think Malaysia is able to stand
Mm-hmm.
toe to toe in terms of affording vaccines? Do you think we are able to stand toe to toe with giants like the United States, like the UK, the EU? No, we can't. At the end of the day, we're
No,
gonna be at the
obviously.
of the bottom of the list, and that's not good. That's not fair either. Like,
True.
this is a global pandemic, and we should all be treated equally in terms of vaccine rollouts, right? Because it is not an individual effort, it is a collective effort. And collectively, the global community, if COVAX doesn't exist, do you think this vaccine rollout is going to be justice? No, I don't think so. That is why COVAX was initially planned and realized, actually, in the first place. So take a look like
Mm-hmm.
at a deeper level what COVAX do and everything. So in within the COVAX, the countries that signed into this initiative, there are two camps within the COVAX. So there are the donors and there are the recipients.
Mm-hmm.
So the donors, yeah, so the
I
donors are these
see.
like rich Western country mostly, right? So they what they do is they
Mm-hmm.
chip in money. They chip in like a large sum of money, like hundreds of millions of dollars. We're talking about, like, some countries are offering billions in this effort. And not only country, actually, there are
Mm-hmm.
also some foundation too. For instance, um the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah,
they
yeah,
also
yeah. I've heard
contributed
that.
in this raising donation to in order to fuel and fund the initiative. So that is those are the donors,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have the recipients. The recipients are mainly targeted to like the around 92 low and middle income countries who are eligible to receive the COVID-19 vaccines through the COVAX mechanism. So these low and middle income countries, they are prioritized in this case, so
Mm-hmm.
that COVAX actually offers a form of help in order to get a hold on this vaccine. So, for instance, it is basically like COVAX, with all of this money from the donors, they're gonna order like vaccines. For instance, in this case of COVAX, is gonna be the AstraZeneca vaccines, and it's also gonna be the some of
Mm-hmm.
Pfizer's vaccine. So COVAX, with all of this money, they are gonna
Mm-hmm.
mass purchase all of these vaccines, and then redistribute it to these poor nations who are unable to compete economically in terms of buying vaccines, as opposed to these like other rich Western countries. Okay, the thing about COVAX is like
Mm-hmm.
there is this really infuriating statistics about COVAX. So let's visit that statistic.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, let me pull up the statistic first. So Okay, I have this statistic here. Okay, so basically, um, okay, so in this statistic, it shows like the three main vaccines: the Moderna vaccines, the AstraZeneca, and the Pfizer vaccines. So these three vaccines are all like
Mm-hmm.
once it announced its creation, it has already like opened a place for order, right, from these countries. So let's talk about
Uh-huh.
the distribution of these vaccine orders. So let's first talk about Moderna vaccine. Do you know that Moderna vaccine, 100%, like every single Moderna vaccine is only ordered by the high income countries?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait,
All,
what?
like 100%, all of it, like all of the vaccine that was created under Moderna is actually bought by these high income countries. Like uh, maybe there are like some reasoning there.
Dang.
Maybe Moderna is like pricier. Yeah, actually, it is true. Like Moderna is pricier than the AstraZeneca vaccine, and some sort. So this Moderna vaccine, like 100% of its creation, like of its distribution, is only gonna go to the high income countries. And as you said earlier, the high income countries' population is minuscule. It's minuscule as opposed to like the rest of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it is so disproportionate here in
True.
terms of vaccine orders. And then we're going to look at Pfizer. Okay, let's take a look at Pfizer. So Pfizer actually was the amount of order is 75% of their vaccine was ordered by high income countries, and then like as I said earlier, Pfizer is one of the
Dang.
vaccine that was used by COVAX, right? COVAX vaccines that was
Mm-hmm.
bought by no. Let me rephrase that. Pfizer vaccines that was bought by the COVAX um, actually only accounts for like five
Mm-hmm.
percent of the total order, and the rest of it is going to the rest
What?
of it is going to the high income countries and the upper middle income countries, which is totally unfair in terms of like yeah, as you said earlier,
Exactly.
the population proportion, it is it's not, it doesn't add up, it doesn't make sense. This is infuriating. And then we take a look at the cheaper vaccine, right? The cheaper vaccine and the less maintenance vaccine is AstraZeneca. Even though it is cheaper, still 60% of its order constitutes from the high income countries, which is still infuriating. It is not a
Dang.
good number either. And from it, like only like 10% of it is
Exactly.
going to COVAX. And can you imagine? Can you imagine the audacity of these rich countries to hoard all of these vaccines into their possessions? Like, what are they gonna do with it? Like, they're like, okay. Actually, you reminded
Exactly.
me of this. There is another statistic that shows how,
Uh-huh.
oh my god, how preposterous these countries are. Okay, so let's take a look at. Okay,
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry if I was being so like I'm so passionate about this. Like, give me a second.
You're mad.
Okay, so
We
let's get
get
to
we get
this.
it, we get it.
Do you know that Canada has ordered the amount of vaccines that is able to vaccinate 5 times its population? Yeah. So
Wow.
500% of
Whoa,
population is
whoa.
covered by confirmed doses. So they have ordered like a huge order, and that amount of order like, is enough to vaccinate the Canadians 5 times over. There are no other Canadians in the world.
Why
Why
though?
why
Like
are you like stockpiling
why?
this? This is not good. This is not good.
Exactly.
This this is actually so bad in terms of like vaccine inequality because these countries are hoarding these resources. Okay, so not only Canada, so the UK, for instance, has close to like 3 times the amount of its population. New Zealand, 2.5 times more
Oh
than its
god.
population needed. The US and the EU uh, collectively both have ordered like twice more than the population of the country. So, for instance, in the US, there are 300 million people. The US has ordered enough
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
vaccines to cover 600 million people. So, that is 300 million
That's
excess
so
vaccines. Where are
selfish.
they going? Where are those 300 million excess vaccines
Oh
going
god.
if they are not ready to donate all of those, if these countries, okay, so let's say if these countries order all of this, and at the end of the day, the excess vaccines are going to be distributed globally, that's okay. That's totally fine. But what
True.
if they charge other country for this? That
Oh
is
no.
preposterous. That is
Oh
outrageous,
no.
and this is such a
Exactly.
serious matter too. Because once you place an order, you're just gonna delay the order for other countries too, right? So when you, because of course, these companies, they have to accommodate to your order first, right? Because you ordered this huge amount of vaccines. So once you have received your order,
Exactly.
let's say you receive your order by the end of the year, it's just gonna postpone
Mm-hmm.
the rollout of the vaccine for other countries, which is totally selfish for them. Totally selfish. Like, let me tell you,
Exactly.
let me ask you something. So, what do you think? Like, what do you think these countries? Or what do you? Oh, no, no, no. Let me rephrase it. I'm getting so mad right now. So, what do you think? What do you think are, like, where do you think they are going with all of this? Like, in this matter, like, we're talking about, like, once they have vaccinated their entire population, what do you think they get? Do you think that they are able to return to the economic status back before COVID? No. Because why? Because why? The
No.
global economy needs to recover at the same time as your country, in order for we to experience the economy that we once experienced before COVID. Like, it is not a singular effort. It is
True.
not only your effort, because let me tell you something. Once your whole country is vaccinated, yeah, everything is going to go normal in your country. Business is going to return back to normalcy. People are able to go to job. But in terms of international trade,
Mm-hmm.
what 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 do you think
True.
happens in your trade partner countries? When, like, for instance, let's say the U.S. and, I don't know, let's say Singapore. No, 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 no. Let's say Indonesia, right? Okay, let's say the U.S. and Indonesia. Let's say they are trade partners.
Mm-hmm.
Both rely on each other economically, but U.S. vaccinated its entire population first before Indonesia could even begin. Do you
Mm-hmm.
think business is going to return back to normalcy between these two countries? No. The US has to wait for this Indonesian
No.
to fully vaccinate their people themselves. So this is actually such a selfish act that doesn't even benefit any of the party here. It doesn't benefit anyone, not even benefiting them
Exactly.
economically, not even benefiting them, not even benefiting the other party, definitely. So this is such
Exactly.
an outrageously selfish act, and this should be stopped. However, do you know that during this, like, pandemic time, there is this one term specifically,
Mm-hmm.
there's this one, actually, no, let me rephrase that. There's this one
Mm-hmm.
act that is used by some politicians, like some really irresponsible politicians, to weaponize um, COVID vaccine rollouts. And it is called vaccine nationalism. And we're going to talk about that later
Oh God.
once we have our break. Let's take a break. And we're back. Okay, so where was we? So we were talking about, what were we talking about? Vaccine
Vaccine
nationalism.
nationalism.
Okay.
Nationalism.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. So, vaccine nationalism. What is it? Who wants it? what what is it actually? Like, okay, so there is this term coined by some irresponsible politicians in country who are able to produce vaccines for themselves. They call this vaccine nationalism.
Mm-hmm.
So, vaccine nationalism
I
is an
see.
act where, for instance, your country are able to produce vaccines on their own, right? Like, for instance, India, in this case, India is
Mm-hmm.
able to produce their own vaccines. The AstraZeneca vaccine is produced there, right? So what happened is,
Mm-hmm.
some authorities in the government believe that they should stockpile the vaccines for themselves instead of helping COVAX distributing them to other countries. They were saying that Yeah, they were saying that, oh, this
What?
is for
That's
like national interest
absurd.
sake. Like, if your country were able to produce vaccine, you're gonna do it too. The thing about this is not even a national interest case. When you really think
Mm-hmm.
about it, like when you include the discussion that I brought
True.
earlier about the economic growth, when you factor in all of the economic aspect, no one
Mm-hmm.
is going to come out of this benefit, like having benefited from this. Like no one is going to benefit, not even your country, because as I said earlier, your country's economy would rely on other countries' economy too. And currently, like we're really hyper globalized right now, right? So of course, our economy depends on other countries' economy. So, so if you stockpile all of this vaccine, okay, first of all,
Exactly.
you have the privilege, right? First of all, you have the privilege to distribute your own vaccine. That is a privilege. Not every country can do it, right? So you have the privilege to produce all of these vaccines for the global usage.
Mm-hmm.
However, you've decided to stockpile all of this country by saying like, oh, I want to vaccinate my people first. Oh, so the rationale for that is like, oh, we want to return back to like economic normalcy, like, but as I said earlier, economic normalcy pre-pandemic is not going to be achieved once every single country has started their vaccination program. Like this is not even like you're not even going to
Exactly.
benefit from all of this at the end of the day. Like once you vaccinate your country, for instance, like once you have vaccinated your entire population, for instance, India in this case, right? They are still gonna have to trade with other
Mm-hmm.
countries. And what if, because of their hoarding back then, these countries aren't able to return back to normalcy? Do you think the trade is going to return back to normalcy with this country? No, you have to wait for these countries first to recover, right? So at the end of the day, it's just a selfish thing
Exactly.
to do. It's nothing nationalistic about it. There's nothing nationalistic about it. So I mean, these politicians should be ashamed of their behavior. Like this is not it. One more thing is, most of these countries that said they have like these terms of vaccine
Mm-hmm.
nationalism, they are also signed to the COVAX treaty. Like they signed into the agreement of COVAX, that they are one of the member states. And they have the audacity to do that, to
Oh.
withhold vaccine from COVAX in order for COVAX to redistribute it to other countries. The thing about this, you're based like
There.
it doesn't even like benefit Covax themselves. Like Covex's goal is to help these countries, right? It's not like they is stockpiling vaccines.
True.
Like at the end of the day, vaccines are meant to be used, right? So go on, distribute it. Why are you stockpiling and not use them?
Exactly.
Like I don't get it. Like it defeats the purpose of vaccine itself, for me, in my opinion. So it's really not. It's really not fair.
That's not fair.
Um, yeah, that and this actually happens in like some countries like India. Back then, I think last month or something, it was a discussion, a hotly debated topic in the UK, if I'm not mistaken. So it's really
Mm-hmm.
outrageous that some countries, some politicians, can even think of this at like such a difficult time like this. You know, like this is not it for me.
Exactly.
For
Yeah.
me, they are not only selfish. At the end of the day, they're not gonna benefit it themselves, so they're dumb. They're just gonna look dumb. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, so
Taking
let me tell you
advantage of
something
other
about the
people, right?
COVAX funding. Okay, so currently, so I'm taking this from the UN website, so I'm gonna read verbatim to all of you. Okay, so funding is a perennial
Mm-hmm.
concern even in pandemic response. To continue providing vaccines to its 190 members, COVAX needs at least $3.2 billion in
Mm-hmm.
2021. The faster that this funding target is
Oh
achieved,
my
the
god.
faster that vaccines can get into people's arms. See, it's not even like COVAX has enough money. It doesn't have sufficient
Oh
money
my god.
actually to fund for this noble initiative. So it's really frustrating to see some countries trying to
Exactly.
pocket off of this like really difficult situation. They're trying to like make profits from this, which at the end of the day is not even gonna be profitable for them,
Exactly.
right? Okay, so aside from that, that is just for vaccines alone. I haven't touched
True.
more on that. Okay, so to touch more on that, UNICEF estimates that an additional $2 billion is needed to help the poorest 92 countries to pay for essentials such as fridges, health worker training, expenses for vaccinators, and fuel for the refrigerated delivery trucks, and is calling on donors to make $510 million of these available immediately as part of a humanitarian appeal to address urgent needs. Imagine, just imagine, like $2 billion is needed for transportation and logistics
Damn.
alone. And you're trying to hoard all of this. Okay, let me tell you something. Not
Oh
every
god.
country is able to have like a very booming pharmaceutical industry, right? It is a privilege, as I mentioned earlier. For instance, let's take a look at the Pacific Island nations. Let's say Nauru, for instance, they have a population of only a few thousand
Mm-hmm.
people. How do you expect them to have a booming pharmaceutical industry to be able to produce their own vaccines, to be able to produce their own syringes, to have like
Exactly.
elite world class medical team? That is just not it. They before the pandemic, they don't have the needs for it. So during the pandemic, what happened is these countries that are privileged to have all of this, they should offer help to these countries, like these under-resourced countries, because this is a global effort. You cannot just save your own country in this case. That is not it. That is just not it. Oh, and talking about nationalism just now, and talking about vaccine nationalism just now, some of this vaccine effort are not even entirely privately funded by them. Some of it is publicly funded by the WHO, and they are trying to, and this some of these countries, they are trying to reap all of the benefit for themselves. That is just stealing for me. If you ask me, that is stealing. Like that is money that was given by WHO, like a global initiative. Like this, like money is allocated for some company to do the research for the COVID vaccine, and once the COVID vaccine is distributed, some of these countries they are trying to pocket all of this for themselves first. That is daylight robbery for me. Like if you ask me, that is just straight up robbery. So it is it is frustrating that we're currently facing with all of this. It really is frustrating, and I don't know about you, but for me, solution is there. Solution is absolutely there, but currently it's bleak. Like some expert has estimated that for even if COVAX manage to reach its target for this year, that would still take us around 2 to 3 years to fully recover from this pandemic. And that is such a long time. I don't know about you, but I'm done with all of this. Are you done with all of this? Like, Jasmine? Wait, I cannot hear it. Okay, never mind. So, as I was saying, I am done with all of this. Like, I can't no longer face the pandemic. Like, of course, at the end of the day, we're looking for a way out of this, right? So, Jasmine, what do you think are the possible solutions that globally we all can take in order to combat all of this matter, like the vaccine inequality matter? Like, what do you think, Jasmine?
Okay, Haikal, to answer your first question, regarding the are we tired about the COVID pandemic? Yes, Haikal, we're so tired of the COVID pandemic, to be honest. Like I just really want to have drinks with friends, having picnics under the sun, and we can't do that, because we have certain restrictions about the COVID
Exactly.
pandemic, and it's really tiring. At the
Yeah.
end of the day, I think that at the end of the day, how do we solve vaccine inequality? Is actually, but it depends on that particular country. I think rich countries, they have the power, have to spare vaccines to poorer countries.
Mm-hmm.
to start, because they have a lot, like you said, they have a lot. They can vaccinate their people 5-6 times. Why? They can donate those vaccines that they have so many. They can donate it to poorer countries. The French president Emmanuel Macron said that richer countries should send up to 5% of their current vaccine supplies to poorer nations. I think at the end of the day, that's what we should do. We should follow what President Emmanuel said. But at the end of the day, there are super little evidence that other countries have even followed what the France
Yeah.
president said. However, after I've done some research, I found that Russia and China have been making their own vaccines, right? The Sputnik 5 and the Sinopharm. So at the end of the day, we have to do what Russia and China is doing. I think that we have to, because Russia and China, their vaccines that they have made, they have distributed it to lower income countries, such as Africa, the Middle East, and basically Latin America. And we can take and apart from the rich countries giving vaccines to the poor countries, because we cannot expect people to like give freely vaccines to us. We can also, this one is for not poorer countries. Basically, this one is for developing countries. I think that developing countries can start to produce their own COVID-19 vaccines, because at the end of the day, like I said, we cannot rely on other major countries to give vaccines freely to us. Basically, if they want to give vaccines to us, they must have something in return, Yeah, and like this method, by producing their own vaccines, this is what India, Thailand, Vietnam, and Cuba have been doing. The India, like you said earlier, India has been manufacturing their own vaccines, which is the AstraZeneca vaccine, and the World Health Organization have approved this vaccine for emergency use. So basically, I think that India has the manpower to do it. So if they have the skills, and like we know, India is a medicine kind of country, medicine known country. So
Yeah.
if they have the resources, then why not? Yeah, and Cuba has 4 vaccines under development. They're developing 4 vaccines, and the most promising vaccine that they've developed is the Soberana 2, which will basically start clinical trials shortly. If successful, Cuba will start distributing up to 100 million doses by the end of 2021 to all countries. Yeah, and we take Thailand. Thailand has developed 2 vaccines under the Chulalongkorn and Mahidol universities. Both are currently starting human trials, and Vietnam also have followed Thailand, Cuba, and India's footsteps. So the Nanogen pharmaceutical, they have received a green light, sort of like a green light from the government to start doing clinical trials. And basically, this company, the Nanogen pharmaceutical company, can produce up to 2 million doses a year. But it plans to increase to 30 million doses in the next 6 months. And at the end of the day, rich countries like Australia. Okay, we take Australia for example. Australia has agreements to purchase enough vaccines, the AstraZeneca and Novavax and Pfizer vaccine, to basically vaccinate their population lah, and many times over. And I think that Australia has taken very great measures in curbing the vaccination inequality. Australia has taken its pledge to the COVAX, and they said that they will contribute to vaccine equity in two ways. Firstly, they're gonna, once the Center of Science Lab ramps up the domestic production of the AstraZeneca vaccine, they will provide portion of those a portion of doses to all their close neighboring countries, basically including the Pacific nation countries, with the Pacific nations and Indonesia. And another step that they would take is, once the therapeutic goods administration is basically like the health regulating sector in Australia. Once they approve the
Mm-hmm.
Novavax vaccine, which is likely to occur in this year, in the middle of this year, they would share all their 51 million doses to poorer countries in the Asia Pacific region. So at the end of the day, I think that that's what we should do. Number one, we cannot expect other countries to freely donate to us and have nothing in return. And number two, rich countries, they should start to donate all their vaccines, all their unused vaccines, to poorer countries. And basically, if we want to store so many vaccines, I don't think it's gonna last that long, because at the end of the day, the vaccines are gonna expire too. So why let vaccines expire without anyone using it when you can donate it to poorer countries that needs it the most? Yeah, that's what I think. So what are your hopes in
I'm sorry. Can
curbing this
you repeat the question?
vaccination
You're cutting off.
inequality?
Hmm?
Oh, I'm so sorry. At the end of the day, Haikal, what are your hopes in curbing the
I think
vaccine
if we're talking
inequality
about
that's
hopes, right, at
happening
the end of the day,
worldwide?
all of us want to be free out of this pandemic, right? Like we want this pandemic to end. But my hope is like these countries, like these richer Western countries, they should start taking more initiatives in order to facilitate this
Mm-hmm.
vaccine rollout effort conducted by COVAX.
Exactly.
And aside from that, as you said, also, I think we're going to see a lot of innovation coming in from unassuming countries. For instance,
Mm-hmm.
I was surprised when you said Cuba has its own vaccine producing plant. That is actually really impressive. Like, when
Yeah,
we're talking about
Cuba.
like the
And
pharmaceutical
it's such a
industry, we've never
small.
thought about Cuba, right?
Yeah.
And when you shared to us just now about Cuba,
Yeah.
that is really impressive and it is so inspiring. And I hope that a lot of countries take that as an example. Like, I mean, typically, like vaccine, the vaccine production, actually, like sometimes it doesn't really rely on like pharmaceutical industry. Like sometimes it's a university effort, right? Like for instance, the AstraZeneca, it is a co-joint production between AstraZeneca and Oxford University, right? And also like in the ones that you suggested right now, like in Thailand, if I'm not mistaken,
True.
from Mahidol University, is it? Ah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like it. I mean,
Yeah,
Malaysia,
and Chulalongkorn
we
University.
have like some. Yeah, yeah. It is. I mean, we have like some really good
University
sister
Malaya.
university
Mm-hmm.
among the
Mm-hmm.
best in the world, actually. And I mean, we
Yeah,
can actually like start our own. We are
exactly.
capable, but maybe we don't know like the economic aspect of it. But who am I to say about the economic aspect of it? Like, because at the end of the day, like, we may have some of the resources, like some other countries may have some of the resources, but they lack in others. For instance, maybe in our case, maybe it could be like monetary budget and everything. I mean, it's so messed up right now. Like, at the end of the day, you want to know what? We still have to rely on some countries. Like, it is inevitable for some countries. It is
Mm-hmm.
inevitable for them to rely on other countries in this case.
Yeah.
But for me, from what we have
True.
discussed just now, everything sounds so pessimistic and so like dark for me. Like, I don't know, like when we're talking about this, like I actually got a little bit depressed by listening. Like, oh my god, like this, like the world is a messed up place. But so maybe some of you guys, the listeners, are like facing this kind of
True.
emotion too. So let me share some good news that is happening from around the world about the COVID vaccine rollout. So this came out yesterday. This is from UNICEF. So more than 100 economies have actually received life-saving COVID
Uh-huh.
19 vaccines from COVAX, the global mechanism for equitable access to COVID 19 vaccines. So COVAX has actually
Wow.
achieved. No, no. COVAX has actually successfully sent 100 countries the agreed the agreed vaccine doses to 100 countries, and that is actually impressive. If you ask me, that is really impressive because this COVAX initiative just started like a few months ago.
Exactly.
In fact, the entire pandemic actually just started off like just shy a month
True.
from like 1 year ago, right? It just like over a year ago the pandemic started, and then we in the same year we discovered vaccines, and in a few months COVAX has managed to send 100 countries their respective COVID vaccine doses, and that is so impressive actually. Despite like yeah, some countries are not being sent yet. For instance,
Mm-hmm.
Malaysia, we still haven't received our COVAX allocation yet. So in recent news also, like yesterday, Khairi Jamaluddin, like one of the coordinating minister for the National COVID-19 Immunization Program, um, he actually held a press conference about this, and he was talking about COVAX and everything. He was explaining what is COVAX and everything, and he said that we are expected to receive the delivery of the
Mm-hmm.
AstraZeneca vaccine in May, and it's going to involve like around 6.4 million doses. That is going to be that is going to be enough for like around 3.2 million
Wow.
people in Malaysia. I mean, it's not everyone. I mean, 3.2 million is less than 10% of Malaysian, but
Mm-hmm.
still, as I said, one step forward is still a step forward, right? So this is exciting news for all of us. So
Exactly.
look forward to your vaccine allocation. Like, I mean, if you guys haven't registered yet on the My Suggestion apps, go register. I mean, I have registered, but I actually have doubt like whether my registration is accepted or
Yes,
not yet
please
because
do
we
so.
in a long time we have registered for a long time now, right? But we haven't heard a thing from them. So it was actually quite worrisome. But when I discovered this news, like knowing that the vaccine
Yeah.
is just gonna
Yeah.
come in May, oh, that is relieving. Like by May, maybe we're gonna listen. We're gonna hear a lot of other news about COVID vaccine in Malaysia, and that is maybe gonna be shared by the other global amateurs in the future podcasts, right? So they're gonna share all of this exciting news because this podcast, as I said, uh,
Yeah.
this is an ongoing podcast. So definitely look forward to the new episodes, like the next week's episode. I don't know yet what is the title, but I'm sure it's gonna be interesting. I'm sure it's gonna be interesting. That's it. And we're back. So
Yay.
actually, I was kind of curious about one thing. Just now, I am interested in your statement regarding the Russian and Chinese effort in vaccine development, right?
Oh yeah.
So about that. So Russia and China has their own vaccine production that they had vowed to share and distribute all around the globe.
Yeah,
Um,
that's what they said.
Most importantly, China. Most importantly, in this case, I'm gonna focus on China first. So
Mm-hmm.
the thing about the Chinese vaccine is
Mm-hmm.
it is actually under a really there's something controversial about it, right? Okay, so
Mm-hmm.
before everything, prepare yourself. We're gonna get into something really shady here. Okay, so this is not conspiracy. This is not theory or something. This is actually all argument laid out by Islam. Right? So
Mm-hmm.
first of all, let's get into the Chinese vaccine thing. So the thing about the Chinese vaccine is for the Sinovac and the Sinovac.
Yeah.
The thing about the Sinovac is its efficacy rate is debatable right now. We don't have like access to the proper data regarding its production,
Oh no.
which is in the case of vaccine is really important, right? We have to know at least the efficacy rate and everything.
True.
And in the case of this Chinese vaccine, the efficacy rate is the problem here. As with any vaccine, efficacy rate is extremely important, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so with the Chinese vaccine, the efficacy rate was at first said around 60 or 70%, like that. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number, but it's
Mm-hmm.
around the area, 70, 60% efficacy rate. However, like someone from the West, they took this vaccine and retested the efficacy rate or something. They said
Uh-huh.
that the efficacy rate of the vaccine was much lower
Wait,
at only
what?
50% efficacy rate. Yeah, exactly. And the thing about that is, it's gonna cause other problem. We're not talking about diplomacy problem here. We're talking about trust issue.
Yeah, true.
Or you know, the thing about vaccine is you have those pockets of community of anti-vaxxers, right? They're like arguing their whole life, like vaccine is unnecessary, vaccine is harmful and everything. And if the efficacy rate is that low, like only 50%, it meant that like if you take it, you still have a 50-50 chance of acquiring serious symptoms of of
Ayo.
the virus, which is kind of counterintuitive of a vaccine. It's
True.
like it's so random. Like 50-50 is so random, right? You either survive or you either don't, right?
It's luck. As basically it's luck.
It's basically like luck. So the thing about this is going to create some real trust issues in countries that acquire this Sinovac vaccine. And um, okay, so aside from that, it is really unhelpful that China has been so discreet and they're not transparent in terms of sharing this information to the public. They only share this information to the countries that they're dealing with, and then those countries they cannot share this information to the public either.
Dang.
They have NDA and everything. So this is really disturbing in the case of trust issues with
True.
vaccine,
True.
right? One of the main hurdle, I would say, it is a main hurdle. One of the main hurdle of vaccine distribution has to be trust among people, right?
Exactly.
Like among the society. Yeah, like if you fail to gain trust among the people,
Mm-hmm.
it would not only affect people's perception towards Sinovac, it will eventually affect like people's perception towards vaccine in general, which
Yeah.
is gonna be bad.
True.
Which is which is not gonna help the case of COVAX, which is trying to get us out from this pandemic, right?
True.
So, so all of this, those are the shady things that is currently happening right now with the Sinovac, and also, oh, one more thing. The thing about China is, China offered all of this vaccine to these countries, and they don't expect any sort of payment, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
However, However, these countries, of course, will feel so indebted
Yeah, true.
towards China, right?
True.
Like they will feel like, oh, I have to do them a favor next time. And this is exactly the thing that China wants. This is the aspiration. This is the bigger China, the bigger image that China is pursuing. So, in this case, um, for instance, let's take a look. One of the countries that accepted the Sinovac vaccine is the UAE, right?
Yeah.
So, let's say in the future, China has a certain plan developing in UAE. UAE is going to take a look in the past and say, "Oh, actually, I have um, I have to return the favor
Yeah, that's true.
that China had done to me back in the day, like during the pandemic." So this is one of China's devious, tricky, and yet smart way of using vaccine as soft power, and it's
Yeah.
really an interesting to delve into. Like, um, I mean, China. China has this like aspiration, for global domination and
Yeah.
whatsoever. And so this is really gonna help their case in the future if they're trying to get something forward. Like for instance, they have a certain motion in their mind, right? They could bring up about this case. Like they could bring up to these countries that, oh,
Blackmail,
we
right?
once gave you vaccine for free, so it's time for you to pay. It's time for you to pay for us, like in terms of like other things. And in this case, it's gonna be decisions on the global level. What we don't know, what China is
Up to.
playing at here, like what they're targeting at here. So, but still, we know China. China is a very like they have huge aspirations, right?
True.
So, so that is definitely smart for them, but I won't deny it's so devious. It is so
It's
devious to
scary.
um, yeah, to using vaccines as a bargaining chip is so low.
Exactly.
I would say that it is so low for them. I mean, at a time where everyone is currently facing a difficult time, they still have they still think of being manipulative in this kind of situation. And I mean, we cannot do much. They're China, you
Mhm.
know. I
True.
mean, I'm not saying they're bad, but they definitely have an agenda in their mind.
Yeah, true.
So just know that. Yeah, and the thing is also kind of the same with the Russian vaccine too, actually. But I wouldn't go in deeper because I mean, if we're gonna debunk all of this, it's gonna take a long
Mhm.
time, and I believe this deserves its own episode. I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
in the future, if you guys like this series, maybe we'll consider talking about this, right?
True.
Because this is a really important and interesting topic, as you would say about vaccine diplomacy. Oh my god, vaccine
Theories.
diplomacy. Don't get me started with that. Vaccine diplomacy is shady as hell.
Yeah.
Like vaccine diplomacy is shady, vaccine economics is shady.
Vaccine
All of
is
those are really
shady.
like
Eh?
yeah. All of those are important and interesting topics that I don't know, we might explore in the future. I don't know. If you guys like our series, maybe you will consider it. I
Yeah,
don't
true.
know. So okay, so back to the question just now about hopes and everything. At the end of the day, we're all hoping for the best. Well, of course, we hope that all of it could end. Like I want all of this to end so bad. Like I want to go somewhere and be able to not wear my mask and not be fined
Oh my
10K
god,
on the spot.
yes. We
That
missed
is
that
like one of the
time.
yeah, I really miss that time. Like when I was like the other day, I was like looking back in my gallery and I was like looking back like pictures, like before COVID,
Yeah.
right? Oh my God, we were so happy.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
literally after COVID, like I've been staying at home indefinitely and I don't like it. Like it's not doing any favor to me. Like I'm getting weights and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, this is not good. Like that is on the personal level. On the national level, though, I mean, I'm not that optimistic about it, but at the same time, I think every world leader should realize that in this time, don't try to be manipulative. Don't try, um, I don't know, don't try to be such a jerk in this time. Like I mean, at the end of the day, you still have to help others in order to help the economy in your country
Exactly.
too. So do it for the greater goods instead, right? So don't be selfish. um yeah, definitely don't be selfish. So I don't know where I'm going with that, but um yeah, basically those are all my hopes in terms of you know, our condition right now, our global
Mm-hmm.
condition. Okay, at the end of the day, I just hope that everyone is doing well. Like, wear your mask. Definitely wear your mask. You don't want to be fined 10K on the spot.
There.
Um, actually, be considerate to others. Actually, that is the main uh, lesson that we get from today. Like, be considerate to others, even on individual level. You have to be considerate to others. Like, wearing your mask itself is a form of
True.
consideration, right? So all of those, take all of the make sure that you watch all of these safety precautions and everything. So yeah, I think that's all from me. Do you have anything else?
Well, for me, I think at the end of the day, I generally think that this is no time. This is not the time for vaccine nationalism. You know, the 2 year
Yeah,
delay
definitely that.
between vaccinating the world's rich and the world's poor is both morally, to
Mm-hmm.
me, is morally unacceptable lah. And basically
Mm-hmm.
it could lead to bigger barriers to the world's health and economic recovery, you know. The more people, the rich people, are hoarding all these vaccines and keeping it from the poorer countries, then it's gonna take
Mm-hmm.
longer for us to recover, and it's gonna take longer for us to be able to open our mouths and go have drinks or something and go and just
Mm-hmm.
basically live life. You know, we don't want to spend our
Mm-hmm.
teen years, our 20s, our 30s. I mean, like whatever we have
Uh,
left. You know,
yeah.
indoors.
Yeah.
It's not basically. I
Mm.
think it's not fair for us too, but like you
Yeah,
said, it's a
definitely.
collective, it's a collective what do you call it, effort. Yeah, it's a
Effort.
collective effort from everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone has to take part in it. Yeah, that's what I think basically. um and at the end of the day, I think that um whatever it is, like you said, we have to be considerate of other people. It's considerate, and it's like we have to have that sort of like common sense, you know, not to
Mm,
not
definitely.
go and have like massive weddings, or to not
Oh
oh,
my God. We're
to
going there.
not go and have vacations at Langkawi, for example.
Oh.
It doesn't make sense, you know. Don't you feel? To me, I feel guilty lah. To me, I feel guilty if I'm out here living my life like nothing happens in a pandemic, while other people are uh staying at home and like basically
Yeah.
uh bidding to all the government, what government says, you know. It's not fair
Mm-hmm.
for them also.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to do this, then
Mm-hmm.
we all have to do this, you know, like you said, it's a collective effort.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, that's why I
Yeah,
think at the end of the day. Haikal, do you have anything left to say?
sure. Actually, like, I have nothing, but maybe do you have like some questions you want to pose
Oh yeah,
to the
right.
listeners?
Okay, so I have some questions I wanna ask to the listeners. You guys can let us know what you think
Mm-hmm.
about your thoughts. Number one is, how efficiently do you guys think that COVAX is in administering the vaccine rollouts in the world? That's one. And number two,
Mm-hmm.
my question is, should there be ethical principles in for countries to have that they have to take note during vaccination rollouts? Would Do they have
Mm-hmm.
to like say, oh, we cannot buy vaccines, or do we I don't know, do we have to register and get in line? Do we have to have ethical principles in distributing vaccines? So let us know your thoughts below, and don't forget to
Yeah,
like.
and wait. Um, I also like, yeah. Let us know your
Yeah.
thoughts. this is not like homework or something. We're just gonna like we just want to have a fun
Yeah.
discussion here. We would like to know your view on all of this because at the end of the day, we value all of our listeners. Definitely, we love all of you.
Mwah, mwah.
And yeah, basically, thanks for listening.
Yeah,
And
don't
yeah,
forget to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast.
mhm,
So till the next
yeah,
episode, guys. Peace out.
yeah. Goodbye,
Bye.
goodbye.